Hello and welcome back to the Atmosphere Electric. As always, I'm Rich and there's Fran. How are you, dudes?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Have you managed to survive this international break without going completely stir crazy?
Oh, I must admit, I didn't mind watching England, but having no other football on has killed me.
So let's start there then. You didn't mind watching England. I thought that was dross on top of dross with a little bit of dross sprinkled on top of it.
I didn't mind watching it because it was interesting from the sense of it was a new manager, and I was excited to see the tactics, style of play, those sorts of things. The actual performances themselves, they were just two poor performances against poor opposition, really, wasn't there? So there wasn't a lot to get excited about. We dominated the ball, but I don't think we saw anything different from what we've seen from a Southgate team.
But I suppose, do you think it was because of who we were playing that almost it was a bit of a, let's be honest, in the international scene, a bit of a free hit, both of them even being at home. Reality was that neither team was really going to lay much of a glove on us. Although there was a period in the Friday night game against Albania where Broja came on that actually turned Dan Burn inside out a few times. But let's not be corrected that we're wrong that he's not an international fit. But anyway, moving on. But other than that, really, it was just flat all along, wasn't it? It wasn't a Brazil or an Argentina or a Spain or a France. It was just two games that we were expected to win comfortably. That's exactly what happened. What did you learn from it?
What I learned from it was more around the attitude of the manager and what he was expecting. I really like how he came out after the game. It wasn't really a criticism, but he said, I want more from my wingers. When they get the ball, I want them to be direct and take the fullback on, which I found really refreshing from, a Pep Guardiola style of keeping the ball, which is exactly what Foden was doing mainly, get the ball and passing back. You need your wingers to be direct. And I thought Rashford was more direct in the next game against Lithuania, but still I'd like them to be even more direct. I'd like them to actually run at them. We seem to be running down the line with the ball, not actually running into the box. So I liked the attitude from Tuchel. I liked that he was trying to get them to be direct, and we were trying to be an attacking team on the front foot, which I think we've been very conservative over recent managers, haven't we?
So obviously, I actually thought there was a couple of people that came out a bit of credit. I would actually say Rashford was one of the players. I appreciate his end product wasn't, but again, they were playing against two low blocks. For the most of the time, they were sort of five defenders, so he might get around one. But I thought actually he looked engaged. He looked like he wanted to be there. He looked like a player that could come back to some sort of form. And I thought actually it was good signs for him that he was trusted with the position, because obviously you could have argued Anthony Gordon. You could have put some other players in. I thought it was a really good actual kind of insight into where Rashford could go if he gets his head right.
I just thought he could have been even more direct than what he was. He kept running at them, but then he'd cut back, he'd cut back, and he just didn't look full of confidence. His confidence is obviously growing. The more he plays, the more he starts. His performances are getting better. I just wanted him to do a little bit more. But no, I agree. It was positive. I just thought he could have done more, because he ended up getting the ball far more than Jarrod Bowen, especially in the first half.
Like I say, I thought there was some. What I really liked is all of the players came out and were really, probably more so than any other manager I can think of, were really kind of, almost, to use a young person's term, glazing. There you go. I can be down with the kids. They were glazing Tuchel about how great his training is and how he talks. And so actually, and I appreciate some of that is of course for the cameras. I'm not going to come and go, no, he's a complete clown. I can't stand the fella. But actually, for them to do that, and Declan Rice was one that was really glowing his terms around him. Was actually, there are some good signs that maybe given a bit more time on the grass, as they say, maybe he could be the right man and get us playing with a system that does actually cause other teams problems.
I think we have got the right man, to be honest. I really just like the attitude. Southgate got a lot of praise, didn't he, for the mentality and the feel around the camp and how he'd rebuilt England. And I think Tuchel's probably of a similar ilk, really. There's a real positive vibe, and it's just needs to get the handbrake off, doesn't he? Allow them to remove the fear of failure and attack teams and go and win games, which, like you said, more international breaks that we get, not that we want them because we want to see the Premier League, but the more international breaks he gets, the more time on the grass training with the team, implementing the style of play, tactics. So I don't think he's going to play four, if I'm being honest. I think he was forced to with who was available. I'd be quite interested to see his actual thoughts. So I think they probably will change further down the line.
Again, it's always baffled me why a coach has to have like one style of play. again, Mike, we quite often change shape depending on who we're playing against. If we're playing against a team that we know, of course, has problems in a certain area, we might set up differently. We might try a 3-4-2-1, a 5-4-1, a 5-3-2, a 3-3. Like, I think that the principles of football remain the same. Especially in international football, you're picking players to suit how you're going to play against other. So again, if you said to me you're going to pick Dan Burn to play against a team that have got a 6'4" centre foot, that makes complete sense. I get it. And you're going to man mark him, and you're going to win the aerial battle. I get it. And I think at international level, you could do that more than you can at Man City because you've also got a squad of players. So don't be married to an idea. Have obviously systems within that. But for me, I'd like him to have a little bit of flexibility. That was the criticism for me of Gareth Southgate going back to the World Cup where we reached semi-final. We all knew who was playing.
What we were playing, yeah. And
Croatia just sat there waiting for it and encountered and beat us. And so I'm all for that, but just do it well.
Yeah, and I'm interested for the next international break to see who he calls up, because for me, when I looked at the options on the right-hand side, without Saka, it looks the quality isn't there. There's one outstanding candidate in Nwaneri who, I don't know if you saw his performance for the 21s, absolutely tore the opposition to bits. I know it's a different level, but he, to me, is the perfect player to almost be a backup and challenge Saka for that position. Because I don't think, I like Jared Bowen, but he's not top level, is he? Let's be honest. And there's other players who I just feel that we could do with better quality, attacking quality.
Yeah, I think this is all to be, like you say, if he changes the shape, then do you need a... But all things to work out, right? Because actually, I think that's the beauty of football, is that, and it feels like there has been a bit of a shift change as the kind of weeks and months go on, back more to like a counter-attacking team, whereas everyone's now trying to work out how you play against the Liverpool or Man City who are trying to hold on to the ball the whole time. So for me to have solutions to different problems is exactly the way to go. We still don't know. We're still no clearer to knowing what the solution is if Harry Kane gets injured. Again, he played 90 minutes of both games, which again, I think he did. I'm pretty sure he did. Which feels crazy. At that stage when it's 3-0, get him off. Let's get somebody else on. What they look like in the comfort of having won the game already. So long way to go. But like I said, I thought the game was boring, but I do think there's some signs that Tuchel could be doing some good stuff behind the scenes.
No, I agree. I said they were boring, but positive signs, I would say, in general.
And I'm definitely ready for football to come back. And unfortunately, this weekend it doesn't even really come back properly. But before we go into our sort of predictions and looking forward to what's about to happen, we have to touch on, obviously, someone that didn't make the England squad due to injury. Trent Alexander-Arnold has obviously hit the press. Just to take your view, obviously neither of us are Liverpool fans and therefore don't have a dog in the race. But what surprised me is the surprise of Liverpool fans that he wants to go to Real Madrid.
I mean, I can understand it because you support your team and you're loyal to them and you don't think that players are going to want to move on because it's your team. I think where they're coming from is he's one of their own and he should feel like he should want to stay. It's not how it works there. There's probably one club in the world that has that attraction to Trent, and it's Real Madrid, and they've come in for him. So, I mean, what do you do? I think you probably just have to have a look at the Liverpool management, as in not Slot, as in the actual management of the club, and go, why have you not got his contract sorted before now? You've almost allowed him to run it down. They might do it behind the scenes. They might have been doing that, and they've just not been able to get it over the line. But it's just unfortunate for them. They're going to lose a world-class talent for free, so they must be absolutely gutted.
So again, I'm not close to, but the story is that Liverpool have offered him 350 grand a week. He's turned it down, which is different to Van Dijk and Salah, which is why they're getting a free pass, because apparently the club have not gone to the players with anywhere near the right sort of number. So therefore, the fans seem to be more forgiving of Salah and Van Dijk because they've not turned down. But the anger is that potentially Alexander-Arnold's going to Real Madrid on a lower wage than what Liverpool have offered. Now, for me, that just tells you how much the player wants to go to the club. He's not doing it for money. He's doing it for the prestige. I don't know how close. I'm pretty sure him and Jude Bellingham are best mates for England. I think is the his mates there. Unbelievable club, steeped in history. Go and experience a different way of living. But it's not like if he was going to Manchester United, if he was doing a Sol Campbell, but he's going around like it's an upgrade. Real Madrid are a bigger club than Liverpool.
Real Madrid are the biggest club in the world. So, and that's to say, I mean, I'd say if it was Barcelona, I don't think he'd go. I think Real Madrid is the only club,
Yeah.
and I think you've got, like you said, I think you've got to throw the Bellingham factor into the mix. I don't think he'd have gone if Bellingham wasn't there, but he's going to have that comfort blanket of his mate there who's English, so he's not going to be the only English-speaking person like when Bex went over. Like, I think you have to chuck that into the mix. It's obviously appealing to go to Real Madrid, but when your best mate's there who speaks English can help you settle in, you're going to have, probably live near them, so you're going to have two families that can talk English together. Like, it makes it as a no-brainer to me. Like, you go into the biggest club in the world who win Champions Leagues consistently. Like, no-brainer.
Like I say, I just think that we've become somewhat delusional in the sense that if Liverpool wanted to get rid of Trent Alexander-Arnold, they'd get rid of him. Like, the player has to look after their own journey. They have to do what they feel is right for them at that moment.
Do you not think when you compare, because I've seen loads of comparisons to Steven Gerrard. Obviously, Gerrard asked to leave, and he's being classed as this loyal servant when actually he put in a transfer request to go to Chelsea. I think the difference there, though, is that Liverpool weren't serial winners, were they, when Gerrard was around? Didn't win a title, I think he stayed to try and get them over the line. Trent has won everything with Liverpool. There isn't really a lot more that he can achieve. He's won about to win two Premier Leagues. How many Champions Leagues has he won? 1, 2?
I think 2.
He's won 2 Champions Leagues, FA Cups, Carabao Cups. He's won everything that you physically can. So I think the time is probably right for him. He's going to be at the peak of his powers. He's 27. He'll get an absolutely, yes, he'll have less of a wage, but he'll have one of the biggest signing on fees that you're going to be able to see. Like, it'll be 20, 25 million. Like, everything just ticks the box of it's the right time. It's a shame to lose him. It's a shame to lose him, though, isn't it, from the Premier League?
Absolutely. Of course it is. But I'm not suggesting. Like, I'm surprised by the surprise. Like, it just feels like I don't get why they would be that angry about it. Like you say, he's 27 this year. He's 26 currently, so still holding Brian Bremer, of course. I'll get over it at one point. I don't think I ever will.
Are we sure he's still 25? We've had a few months go by now. He might be 24.
What is he? A Benjamin Button?
Exactly. The way he looks, he's Benjamin Button.
No, I'm pretty sure he's definitely not going backwards, but he's definitely. I've got to find out. No, still 25. He was born on the 7th of August, 1999. 25. But like I say, I just think that we have to be realistic in the sense. All those things, he's won everything. At 26, nearly 27, if he signs a 4-year contract, at 31, he's not going to have the same level of interest. Like, this is his, I think that he could play, actually, bizarrely. I think that Trent could play till he's quite old, based on maybe as a CDM, maybe he's in a different position, the way he pings the ball about, because he's not reliant on pace. But this is his chance to go and do it at the prime age. He's never going to get this opportunity again. It just makes complete sense that this was going to be the time he leaves.
I've heard people saying that he's going there because he thinks he's got a chance of winning the Ballon d'Or.
Oh, no, he's not.
No defenders win the Ballon d'Or unless you are Maldini. I don't even know if he won it, by the way. It's almost impossible. However, he's going to be playing, like you say, as a right back. They're going to have so much of the ball. There's no defending to do in La Liga, is there? Or not as much as in the Premier League when you're playing for Real Madrid. So there might, his assists and his numbers might go through the roof, and he might have, a squeak. But I mean, defenders don't win it. But yeah, it just makes complete sense to me. I think the time's now. It's gutting for Liverpool because they're losing a 80, £100 million valued player for free. They're going to have to spend shitloads to get a player of his quality. You're never going to find like for like because I think he's pretty unique in the way that he plays. But they're going to have to spend a lot of money to replace him.
I get the frustration, right? I get I get the annoyance. I genuinely understand that you'd be peed off losing great player, but
it's been on the cards though. He's been linked from month to month to month, and everyone knows that it's a proper interest. Whereas, like you mentioned, Salah and Van Dijk, where there's been some links around. I mean, I've not seen anything concrete. Like concrete is Real Madrid, Trent. That's concrete. Everyone knows. So it's been on the cards. I don't understand, like you said, how there's that much surprise. It's been coming.
And you know what? Even if he's going to win the Ballon d'Or, well, it's his journey. It's his life. Like, Dave that lives in Toxteth, he's not worried. He's got to do what he feels right for him in his career. Because you get one shot at this game. If Real Madrid came knocking for me, even if I played for the team I support, you'd be going. But so on that, there are 3 defenders have won the Ballon d'Or, Fran. Can you give me? I tell you, can you give me one of them? Don't look. Don't Google. Don't look. Give me one of them.
Beckenbauer.
You've given me one of them. Very good. That is the very, very good. Okay, can you give me two of them? Same. Okay, I'll give you two clues. One of them is from the same country. I don't think that's that much of a help. So one of them is German. One of them is Italian.
Maldini.
Nope.
Nesta.
Nope.
Oh, Baresi.
Nope.
Oh dear. No.
Cannavaro.
Cannavaro. Oh yeah, of course he did. Yeah, all 5'9" of him.
Yeah. And Matthias Sammer.
Who?
What do you mean who? You're not that young, are you? Matthias Sammer from Germany?
No.
Okay, well, there you go. That was a fun fact for you there off the back of defenders don't win the Ballon d'Or. 3 have in the history. You could argue Beckenbauer was a bit more than a defender in his defence. He was a bit more than a defender. So, look, yeah, like I say, it does cause Liverpool a massive problem. Of course it does. They have got Bradley that can fill some of that gap. Of course, completely different player in terms of Trent is one of the best ball playing centre back, also fullbacks in the world. But I think we've just got to let him go because he is where he is now, and it's not his fault possibly that the contract is where it is. You know, maybe they'd have offered him 350 grand 2 years ago, he might have signed it, and he'd still be in contract.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned a couple of players. The one I'd be looking at is Frimpong from Leverkusen. Very different style of player. He's more of a winger sort of player, isn't he? But put him there and allow him just to bomb on and do his thing.
The thing for Liverpool is where do they focus their budget on, and what can they raise, and where do they go? And it might be the start of a new cycle for them. Like sometimes we have to understand that you've had a very, very good period under a very good manager. Nobody really thought Slot was going to come in year one and do what he's done. So a bit of a bonus. Bit of a not a complete surprise, but everyone thought Manchester City and Arsenal would finish above Liverpool this season based on the changeovers and the lack of signings. You might need to go back into the transfer and take a couple of windows and rebuild and start again in Slot's footprint. I believe that you've got a man in Slot there that can actually be the next Klopp for you. He can be there for a period of time and start to get you back to building dynasties. Just give him a bit of time.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's probably going to allow them to use that budget they were going to pay Trent on the other two. So I fully expect both of those to stay now. Yeah. I see them spending that budget on keeping those two, means then they can focus their transfer fee on a right back.
And do you know what? If I was a Liverpool fan, and that's the outcome of this season, we get to keep Van Dijk and Salah, I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. No, I think I would. I know it's probably gutting because you're losing the youngest one who's probably going to stay there and be at their peak longer. But that means that you can keep Van Dijk and Salah and then focus your transfer fee on a right back. And say they brought in Frimpong, you're just as strong as you were last season, probably likely to win the league again.
It buys you some time, doesn't it? Like I say, it buys you some time.
They need time. That's the key, isn't it?
It buys you some time. Yes, you're going to have to pay Salah top dollar. You're going to have to pay Van Dijk top dollar. They don't. Neither of them look like their powers are declining with the season they've had. So all of a sudden, if they both go, you need a centre back, a right back, and a winger. And it buys you time. And guess what? If you've got Van Dijk and a Salah in your team, you're going to be able to attract a better quality of player because they're going to think you're still in the mix. You're in the Champions League next season. You've just won the title. You've lost a very good player, but let's be honest, he's been injured quite a bit and they've survived. We've all dug him out for his defensive responsibilities and they've survived. We are just talking about, because he came through the academy, I feel that people get a little bit too OTT'd on the relationship that's been built. And actually, I fully do not blame him at all for being interested in going to Real Madrid for 4 years in his prime.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Okay, so let's get cracking. We're gonna kind of go into, although it's not a weekend fixture, we've got a full round of midweek fixtures next week, all over the place in terms of TV. So it's not one of those where all of them are being shown, but there are some on TV, and there are some really interesting fixtures. Not only because, of course, these teams haven't played for what feels like a lifetime, but albeit a couple of weeks. But of course, a load of people being all around the world doing different things. So on Tuesday, the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, and my son's birthday, Arsenal host Fulham at the Emirates. This one, in another world, could have been a really important game, couldn't it, for Arsenal? I think we've kind of written them off. However, if they did beat Fulham at home, it would drop the gap to 9 points. So I'm trying, Frank, I'm trying. It would drop the gap to 9 points. And could that put some pressure on Liverpool, who play later in the week?
It's too big to catch, isn't it? Let's be honest. But Liverpool look rocky at the minute. Their players are looking to leave. There's negative signs around the club. They've been knocked out of the Champions League. They've lost the Carabao Cup. So there is negativity around the club at the minute. This has to go. And Arsenal win and Liverpool lose to Everton. And then it's not back on, as in it's 3 points, but that has to happen for there to be any interest.
Because their league form, Liverpool's league form is actually way better than Arsenal's. In fact, over the last 5 game weeks, Liverpool have actually extended the lead. So actually, Arsenal are the ones that look like they're wobbling in terms of their drew with Manchester United that you would have expected them to beat. They drew with Nottingham Forest away, tough place to go, but you still would have thought that Arsenal have enough, and they lost to West Ham. Whereas obviously they bounced back with that win against Chelsea. There's rumour that potentially Saka's back on the grass and potentially back in the squad and could be in and around the match day, which would be a massive boost for Arsenal. And they are playing, certainly recently, the epitome of inconsistency in Fulham, who go win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So, this feels like actually it's probably not a bad game for Arsenal to come back into, at least, like you say, do that old phrase that everyone hates, apply a bit of pressure.
Yep. And what was the last result for Fulham? Loss, was it?
No, they beat Spurs 2-0.
All right, so they're going to lose this game. Then that's easy enough on the predictions. Yeah, it's so difficult to predict because you just don't know. I mean, Arsenal don't look like they're going to score. Gone put 7 by someone in the Champions League.
PSV.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult, this game, to predict. I mean, I can't see them winning, if I'm being honest. I would like them to win. I'd like Liverpool to lose to open up some interest. I just can't see it.
So you can't see Arsenal beating Fulham. You can't see Arsenal winning the league.
I can't see Arsenal. Well, both. I can't see Arsenal beating Fulham. I think.
Really?
Fulham, yeah. I just don't know where the goals come from. I can't imagine Saka's going to start. I just can't see where their goals come from.
Oh,
because Fulham are a decent team.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm definitely not upsetting the Fulham fans any more than we did back in August. That's just caught me. I think at home, you just think that Arsenal will have enough to sort of get over the line, whether it be via the power of set pieces. Like I say, you've got some players coming back. The midfield looks a bit stronger. But yeah, the interesting thing for me is that I've seen and spoken to, because again, where I'm based, loads of Arsenal fans that are starting to get worried about Odegaard's form and actually how he looks like he's gone from being a potential Ballon d'Or winner to a, can't kick a balloon through a door winner. Like he looks like he's fallen off a cliff, and I wonder whether that's because he hasn't got the quality around him that he had. And again, we talk often and hear about partnerships and pairings, and maybe playing the ball out to a Raheem Sterling makes the pass look worse than if you're playing the ball out to a Martinelli or a Saka.
Well, he had a very good relationship with Saka. The through balls that he'd play through to Saka and he'd pull it back, like he was almost the pre-assister, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with the players around him not being on the same wavelength. However, he has just come back from international duty. Did he get 3 assists, I think, and a goal, something like that? Yeah. So his confidence should be up. If he's going to put in a performance after that, that should happen. I think that's the hope for Odegaard. But he has massively, his output has declined hugely, which is also showing in the goals that Arsenal score.
Yeah. Interesting way to kick off the game week, 7:45 Tuesday at the Emirates Stadium. At the same time, the Battle of the W's, Wolverhampton Wanderers host West Ham. Do we think, and again, it's been a while since we spoke about it, that if Wolves can win this, that's them completely safe? There's no point talking about it anymore. With what would be 8 games left, they could be as many as 12 points clear. They're done and done. Or do you think that's already the case and they're already on the beach?
It's already done. You look at the amount of games that the other teams have won. They're not going to go on a run. It's going to have to be a Leicester 2014 style run where you win 8 out of 10. Like it's just not going to happen with Ipswich or Leicester. It's already done. I think this is a great game week as well for Wolves because they're playing a West Ham who are very inconsistent and there's points to be taken from that game. And then you look, Man City have got Leicester and Ipswich have got Bournemouth. So you would think, I know Bournemouth's form has declined, but you'd think both of those should go to the home team. So it's a bit of a free hit for Wolves, isn't it? Like put another point or 3 points on the board and you are absolutely home and hosed.
And they come off the back of, albeit against teams that it's not like the massivest surprise that they've... So Wolves obviously beat Bournemouth, lost to Fulham, drew with Everton, and then they've beaten Southampton. So they've actually got sort of 7 points from the last 4 games, which is, again, take the 7 points off, it puts them back on 19 points, right bang in trouble. So actually that's the difference, is that they have put a bit of a turbo boost on, haven't they, just at the right time in those 4 games, 7 points, where the other teams between them have mustered a grand total of 0 points.
Yep. And then if you add into the bit of context of who Wolves' next fixtures are, I believe they've got Southampton and Ipswich, which just gives them even more opportunity to put daylight between the teams. Yeah, the relegation battle is done. I mean, if you look on the bookies odds, I think Ipswich are 1-33 on to be relegated. Leicester are 1-66. Southampton have no odds because they're saying they're already down. So it's done, isn't it? It's absolutely done.
Yeah. And then on the other side of this coin, West Ham playing for pride. If Wolves were to beat them, you could argue that with those two fixtures that you just mentioned, Wolves could be looking at catching West Ham up, and all of a sudden West Ham could be looking down the barrel of finishing 17th. And as much as that is safety, that would be seen as an absolute disaster. And, Graham Potter coming in has, by the way, they've also picked up 7 points in the last 5 games as well. So without them, they'd be, actually, this is a really interesting piece almost for the battle of 17th, isn't it?
Definitely. And the higher you finish up the league, the more prize money you win, which obviously goes towards your PSR totals as well. So it's definitely something that Wolves and West Ham should be looking at, obviously for different reasons to the other. But West Ham, I think, are accepting that they're in transition, and if they finish 17th, I think they'll just accept it as opposed to having complete outrage. I suppose it will depend on the start to next season for them, but from the actual league position and finances and prize money that you get, it's very, very important these days.
I mean, I know we do this a lot, so apologies, but when you look at teams that need a summer, a good summer, West Ham are right at the top of that list, aren't they? I mean, they are.
Which is mad when we said how good their summer just gone was.
I mean, it looks so bad now, doesn't it? Looking back, it's crazy. I mean, obviously Spurs had it the year before where everyone was banging about their window, and obviously that kind of unravelled quite quickly. But this one, you look at that West Ham team and the squad, and you just think, blimey, they haven't solved any of their problems really. They you take Jarrod Bowen out of that team, and they look bang average, don't they?
They do. And especially when you add in the context of the signings were made for a manager with a different style and who's now completely flipped it to Graham Potter. Like they haven't got any Potter style players in that team, really.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? Like I say, it's a worry. And the West Ham fans are obviously very vocal, so they definitely let the team know they're not happy. I mean, I think if they were to finish 17th, I think that would be a real problem for them psychologically. Obviously, of course, they're on the same points as Everton and Spurs, so they can look up as well. If West Ham were to win that game, they can quite conceivably go on a bit of a run themselves and get themselves up the league. But they certainly don't want to be looking over their shoulder. They host Bournemouth the weekend after that, which again is two relatively difficult matches for West Ham. We move to the live game on Tuesday night, Nottingham Forest against Manchester United at the City Ground. Now, this becomes a very, very interesting fixture based on where we all are in the year and where we are in the league table. And I think it's probably been a very, very long time where both of us could probably have Nottingham Forest as one of our bankers of the week at home to Manchester United, because they're that strong favourites. That I'm not saying we have, by the way, but we could, because we'll both be expecting Nottingham Forest to win this game, aren't we?
Yeah, I expect them to win. I think they'll win this pretty comfortably. So United have picked up, but I think, again, there's context to it of some of the opposition that they've played. Bruno Fernandes is being spoken about as the best player in the world. Nonsense. Just proven by his Portuguese performances for the national team. No, I think it should be. I think it will be a good game because United have, turned the corner a little bit. So there should be a bit more attacking output from both teams. But I can just see that Forest defence being too strong for United to penetrate them.
And of course, if they did win and Arsenal did lose, like you think they will do, Nottingham Forest will be 1 point behind Arsenal, which is crazy to think about, that we're still here. I know that at some point we're going to get over the fact that Nottingham Forest are where they are. But for them to be talking about going second, wow.
It's unthinkable, isn't it, really? Especially when we were talking about Arsenal being the nearest challenger. It's now gone from Arsenal being the nearest challenger to nobody really challenging, but Forest could pick them into second. It's mad.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it must be feeling like, to be a Nottingham Forest fan at the moment. Again, like, it's not like other teams don't finish second, and actually quite often if you finish second or third, you can be very disappointed. It can be a very different journey. But for them, the whole. In fact, I was up in Nottingham yesterday. Like the whole place has this kind of buzz about it in terms of people are walking around with smiles on their faces. Everybody's got that kind of step, that bounce in their step. It just feels like a place of positivity, and it's amazing. And again, you go back and you look at the manager, and you look at the laughing stock he had become in his 2 previous jobs. His stock has never been higher. The club had never been higher. What a great season. And again, fully expect them to go and deal with Manchester United on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I think that's, like I said, that's the expectation now, isn't it? Of the way that they've been performing. It's an expectation that they go and beat Man United, which, again, a few seasons ago would have been madness.
Where do you think the ceiling is? So let's assume that Nottingham Forest finish in the top 4. I don't think that's a massively wild assumption at this stage where we are. What type of player should they be looking for? How do they kick on? Because, they are playing, a very rigid system, shall we say. They are, defence first, which is fine. I'm not, but at some point you've got to kind of think about, do we start to open that up and play more attacking football? Although you could argue in Europe's particular way, especially with the new way that the Europa Champions League works, actually to pick up draws away and wins at home will see you through to the quarterfinals. What sort of players should they be looking for?
Well, based on the 3 players that I've seen linked, so I've seen Lookman linked, I've seen Gyökeres linked, and I've seen Cunha linked. Now, regardless of whether they all go, what I like about it is they're targeting quality as opposed to going, we need 5, 6, 7 players. They're actually trying to target quality players, which if they finish second, as an example, that's what they need to do to kick on to the next level to ensure that you keep that level. If you start trying to sign players, from abroad who you're trying to penny pinch a little bit, I think that's when you can go wrong. I think if you are going to try and, cement yourself as a top 4 consistent sort of finishing the top 4 team, you need to go and sign the next rung up of players. Now, it might cost you 50 million to get one of them, but that's what you need to consistently be there. And I think when you've seen other teams do that, they haven't attracted that level of quality. They've tried to stay on this route of trying to sign cheap players and develop them, which I think you need an element of that. But if you are going to go to the next level, you need that level of quality.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if Gyökeres goes there. I think there's Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, even arguably, possibly would be sniffing around.
I'd be surprised, but it's nice to see them, having that ambition to go. That's what we need. Because if we're being honest, can you see Chris Wood performing like he has this season, next season? Probably not. I'd say he's a bit of a Mateta purple patch, isn't it? He's also getting on. He's 31, 32, whatever it is, but you need to be replacing him. So I think they are going around the right lines. I'd be targeting a forward if I was them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And actually, you look down the league. What as we've said this 1,000 times on here is that teams at the top, the best thing you can do is pinch from the teams down the bottom. Look at anybody that's going down. Obviously, the lap we think will be going down. And that feels like to me that could be somebody that they could possibly, if they're going with the right package for both the player and the club, kind of win. I think that's a much more likely option for them than Gyökeres, who, like I say, I just think that there'd just be too many big clubs kind of get into a bidding war. But if they move quickly on the lap, I think that's the sort of player they could get over the line. It would make a massive difference when you think about Gibbs White, Hudson Odoi, and a young crop of players coming through. That could be quite an exciting project for someone.
No, I agree, and I think the Cunha rumour will get reignited again even more. I can absolutely see him there.
Yeah, be very, very interesting to see how they handle that, because it's a very different process when you're at the top, when you're looking for Champions League quality players compared to what they've done in the past where they're looking for Premier League players. I think it's easier, this might sound a really ridiculous thing, but it's easier to find a Premier League quality player than it is to find a Champions League quality player. And actually, the thing for Nottingham Forest is, can you stay there now? Can you get some consistency that means that you're not just a one-season wonder? Because actually next season, you are going to have a massive game on a Wednesday night, and you've still got to play on a Saturday. You could conceivably have Barcelona at home, followed by Arsenal away in the league. Like you're going to have the squad that can handle that with the right quality.
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to look at history as well, haven't you? Of Leicester qualified Champions League, nearly got relegated. Villa qualified for the Champions League this season. It's not been anywhere near as bad, but their form in the league has been nowhere near what it was. Newcastle qualified. Their form was horrendous in the league, wasn't it? They were focusing in the Champions League, which again is understandable for those teams. But when you do that, you need to sign that level of quality that's going to ensure that you still win games in the league and win games in the Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting times. Look, I'm actually looking forward to watching that game. That will be definitely on the old telly box in my house. I'll definitely be having a bit of that to see how that one goes. We move to Wednesday night, 7:45 at the Vitality. Bournemouth, who are in absolutely dog form, host Ipswich are in even worse form. Is this the perfect fixture for Bournemouth to bounce back and get a relatively comfortable 3 points back on the system to get back up the league and moving back in the right direction?
I think on the flip side, Ipswich will be seeing this as a good game for them to try and beat a team that's out of form. Whether or not that plays into Bournemouth's hands, though, a team that should try and attack and they've got to win the game. Are they going to leave space for Bournemouth to open them up and score goals? So I think it could play into Bournemouth's hands, if I'm being honest. I think that break will have done them the world of good from the internationals. Quite a few of them will have had some time off. So I think it could just play into Bournemouth's hands.
I've got this down as, when we come to the position, I've got this down as the highest scoring game of the game week. I think this could be goals. I think this could be entertaining. I think this could be a little bit of back and forward. I can see definitely I'd be having both teams to score.
Yeah.
And I think that Bournemouth have got some players that are coming back. And I think, if I was a coach of a Premier League team now, no matter where I was, I'd be looking at it as an 8-game season now. Like, you've had a bit of a break, whether you had international breaks or not, and I'd be looking at, just doesn't matter where I am in the league, I would be setting my team the challenge of how many points can we win in the next 8 games. And if I'm Bournemouth, if I get that right, we've got European football next season. And again, there are vultures circling. And that's why it's so important for Bournemouth, for me, to get into the highest possible European league they can, because it gives them the best chance of fighting off those vultures. Because I think a lot of the people, including the manager, will stick around and give it one season at the top or second top table in European football.
Yeah, and again, you've just covered the Bournemouth side. I'll cover the Ipswich side. They should be looking at this as a mini season to see how many points they can get, because you never know, they might be able to get enough to catch Wolves. But you can't be conservative in these games. Effectively, you're already down. Play 3 up front. Try 2 up front if you're playing 1. Play 2 wingers. Like, you've got to do something different to break the mold of and the form of what's gone before. So I'd be doing exactly what you said. It's the start of a new season. Let's see what we can do, and let's give it a real good go. You may as well lose 5-0 than lose 1-0. Give it a go and see if you can score some goals and win the game, because you just never know.
I just think that you package this up as a nice bite-sized chunk. You can bring the fans on board. If I was a coach, I'd be talking to the fans about exactly that. What are our expectations? If you think about it, what's the difference between Wolves and Ipswich in terms of points? Is it 9 points difference?
Yes, I think it is.
It is 9 points difference. So I'd be setting that target of, can we get 1 point per game more than Wolves, so that in that last game week, in the last game of the season, we've got a chance of staying up. Can we just do 1 point more than Wolves, and let's give it a go? And like you say, at this stage, really, I'd be looking to start to build momentum for next season. I'd be again, not just about Ipswich and Bournemouth as well. What you don't want Bournemouth to do is to go from being brilliant all the way through the season and then ruin the last 12 games and finish 16th, 15th, 14th, because that would feel like a real underachievement based on where they were. We were all days ago talking about how brilliant Bournemouth were. And
the worry for Bournemouth is that there's more strong rumours coming around about their players, like Huijsen is being linked to Real Madrid and a few other teams. Like, the lower you finish down the league, the more inclined those players are going to be to go, do you know what, done my season here, off I go. You finish 6th, 7th, they might go, do you know what, we'll give it one more year, stick around, see how we go. So I think it's crucial that Bournemouth especially do finish positively, or, use the phrase again, their players will be cherry-picked.
Very good. The way I would phrase it is, why not? What have you got to lose? Like, you can go with your flip-flops and be on the beach, but who is that helping? If I'm a player and I want to transfer, or I don't want to transfer, I want a bigger contract. If I go and score 15 goals in the next 8 games, if we keep 8 clean sheets in the next 8 games, whatever we're looking at, for me, this is a no-brainer. Just go at it hard, give it a go. There's no Euros, no World Cup this summer. You're going to have a bit of a breather more than normal, unless, of course, you're in the Club World Cup, which is, maybe we'll touch on another week. Complete waste. Anyway, but let's go together as one and try and do something exciting. Because again, give the fans something. Again, even if it's just for season ticket renewals, if they can see that our team is giving it a go, playing swashbuckling, attacking football, you're more likely to get more season ticket renewals. Let's just go for it.
Absolutely. I don't think you could be any more right. Let's say that I'd never understood the on the beach phrase, because I don't. Why would you just rock up to a game knowing it means nothing? Like, especially like as a player, professional, your wages, your livelihood live on it. Like, you can get signed by another club. Like, I've just never understood that, to be honest.
No, me neither. But what do we know? So we move on to it's a really interesting game. Lots of games that are similar. We've got same time, 7:45 Tuesday night at the American Express Stadium. Brighton host Aston Villa in what is, again, another really interesting fixture in the top half of the table. Again, as we spoke about, Aston Villa might now have sort of one or two eyes firmly in the Champions League kind of basket. So this could be one of those where they, and those games come up in the not too distant future, I think the week after. So again, they might be looking at either trying to get back into some form or actually trying to go, do you know what, let's focus on that game. So this for me actually is, again, another interesting game that I can see being quite high scoring, but I would lean towards probably the home team.
I would agree. I think it will mean more to the home team because, one, they're 2 points ahead of them in the league. If they win and results go their way, they could be in fourth. Like you said, Villa are already concentrating on the Champions League. It's first time in years, so why would you not? So I completely get that. I just think it's going to, with home advantage as well, I would be leaning towards the home team in this.
Yeah, I think for Villa, it just looks like there's so many teams above you. I know points-wise it's not crazy, but you have got Chelsea, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, Fulham. Again, Bournemouth. If we think Bournemouth are going to beat Ipswich, they're going to be on 47 points as well. All of those teams look above you. Aston Villa have been again another one of these teams that have been a little bit of a yo-yo. They've gone from drawing with Aston Villa drawing with Ipswich to drawing with Liverpool. To beating Chelsea, but to losing to Crystal Palace, they're a little bit all over the place, aren't they? Again, no one until you don't really know what you're getting. But actually, like I say, for me, I just think that it's close enough now for them to be looking at that next fixture, which is huge in terms of the PSG game. An absolutely massive, both in terms of the size of the difficulty and the size of the prize. It wouldn't surprise me if there's rotation for Villa in these next couple of games.
No, and that's exactly where I'm trying to use my head a bit here rather than looking at the names of the teams and sort of reputations. I'm trying to use my head and go, Villa, to me, would be concentrating on Champions League. I mean, the only flip side on that is, are they looking at PSG and going, that's probably the worst team they could have got. You can't think like that, though, can you? In a Champions League knockout game, you've got to go whole hog and go for it. So, yeah, using my head, that's where I am with it. I just think Brighton will have too much focus on this, and Villa will have focus elsewhere.
We'll come on to it later, as not later, but next week. But don't you think if there was a manager in Europe that you wanted to kind of set up a team to beat a team, forgetting who they are, Unai Emery has won, many European competitions in a team that was unfashionable, definitely rarely the favourites. He's the guy that I would want in my dugout. Not saying that they're going to do it, by the way, but at least of all of the coaches in the Premier League, he's got the history of beating teams that you wouldn't expect the team to beat in Europe.
Definitely. And also, you've got to take into account, this is PSG. It's not Real Madrid, who have history of winning the thing pretty much every year. This is PSG, who have history of ballsing it up every single year. I know they look a different PSG to what we're used to, but that will still be playing on a lot of the players' minds. I don't think it is as clear cut. I mean, when you look at the ability wise, I think it's clear cut to go PSG are favourites, they'll go through, but it isn't as clear cut. And like you said, you take into the fact of the manager. This is why, again, you then pull that back into the league game. They've got to be focusing on that Champions League. It's massive.
Aston Villa are 5.5 to 1 to beat PSG in that first game, by the way. I'm not suggesting I'm going to put. I'm not suggesting I'm going to put money on it, but just as a heads up. Again, I think this could be a really interesting game. Again, it'd be interesting to see what team both managers select. And again, Brighton going a little bit under the radar, but like you say, the really key point for there is that if results go their way, if they beat Villa, they could see themselves in the top four, and that'd be some season, wouldn't it? For again, it doesn't feel like that long ago where the fans and when we were talking about is he the right man for the job, and it needs to be kiboshed.
Yeah, absolutely.
We move on to the Etihad. I don't think we're going to be spending too long deciding who wins this game. I'm afraid Manchester City host Leicester. I'm guessing, knowing you as I do, you're going to be going for Manchester City, most shots on target, most corners, and win to 0.
Yeah, I won't be backing it because the odds will be about 1 to 4, won't they? So that's the main reason why I won't. But yeah, I mean, this is more of a question of the margin of the win as opposed to the win. Yep. Who's going to win? I think the only thing for Leicester is, can you see? Is there going to be any signs of positivity there? Like we've just said with Ipswich, is there going to be a change of formation? Are you going to play 2 attacking wingers? Like I said, you may as well lose 5-0, 10-0, as opposed to trying to defend and then lose 1 or 2-0. So I think that's just going to be is there any positivity there? Is there any signs of, shoots of a new system or way of playing that Leicester can effectively take to the Championship? Is there going to be any youngsters on the pitch? Like, that's the only thing I can see about this game. I don't think there's any point in talking about the actual game itself.
No, and I'm not sure any of that's relevant, because I don't think that Ruud van Nistelrooy will be the next season, if I'm being honest with you. But again, that's not based on any knowledge.
It's a strange one, because when he's being interviewed, he's saying, I've signed a 3-year contract. Now, you can take that as, I want to be here for 3 years, or you can take that as, I've signed a 3-year contract. If you want me out, you pay me.
It's factually correct, isn't it? Like, you can't argue it is factually correct. I've signed a 3-year contract. That's exactly what I'd be saying. But, whether he wants to be... Being honest with you, I actually think if I was Ruud van Nistelrooy, I'd be looking to do it, because actually... to have that learning in that division would do him the world of good for the rest of his coaching career. I think that he's probably got... Is
the question, though, that has he already lost the players and the confidence? Possibly. Now, from a Leicester perspective, there needs to be a full clear out of the decks, and you probably keep 1 or 2 players, build your team around the youth. There's a lot of good youth academy prospects coming through who would be more than good enough to play in the Championship. And then you try to go back to a model that has served you well previously of signing young, talented players, and you develop them and try and build their reputation and sell them on. I think that's the only positive you can see. And is Van Nistelrooy the right man? You would expect him to be, with his ties to PSV, I think, PSV, yeah. And he was the academy manager for years. So you'd expect him to go down that route. I'd just like to see him do that a little bit now. Leicester are already down. They've got 2 young academy products. One's a top goal scorer in the Premier League 2, and one is a generational talent who wants to be signed by every enormous club around the world. So play them. You've got nothing to lose. You've been playing a 78-year-old Jordan Ayew and a 49-year-old Decordova Reid who have got about 3 goals between them. You've got nothing to lose.
My thought process on if you've got an academy set up, you should be looking to use it. Otherwise, why have one? It's completely pointless.
Especially when you've not scored a goal in 10 games and you've got the leading goal scorer in Premier League 2 in Evans. Like,
you look at I know that people kind of keep banging on about the glaze that Lewis Scully and where are getting, but it's just saved Arsenal probably £120 million in the future for those players coming through their system. They're both England international. I know that in where he didn't start, but they're both going to play for England, and they both came through their academy following Saka. All of a sudden now you're starting to look at Arsenal, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and they're finding talent, playing them young enough, getting them in the team. And that's exactly, I've said this to you thousands of times, that's exactly should be Leicester's business model. They should have the best academy in the country, and they should fast track players into that first team, so that if I've got a child who's of good enough quality, I'm going to pick Leicester over anybody else because they've got more chance of playing first team football and setting up. That for me is exactly where Leicester should build their business model around. Great location in the centre of the country. It's great training facilities, great little stadium, and it's an absolute no-brainer. I don't understand why it's so difficult.
And especially you add into that, Leicester's form. They've not scored a goal, and they've got Jake Evans. He's 17 years old. Now, I know it's young, but he's the top goal scorer in the Premier League 2. They haven't scored a goal in about 7 or 8 home games, let alone adding on the away games. You've got nothing to lose. You've got the winger in Jeremy Monga, who he's talked about as a generational talent. He's been tearing up England under 19s and 21s. Play him.
The only thing I would say, I completely, is that I probably wouldn't choose Manchester City away. I'd probably look for a home game.
Definitely.
But
yes, the point in general, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, get him in. Why not?
Even bring him on with 10 minutes to go. Add him in a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. All I'm saying is just be a bit sensible with their journey with Man City away, because you could absolutely look, and of course you could make a star if they scored a goal at the Etihad and make it go 1-0, which like Sammy Smodics did at the start of the season, like you say. But so I completely agree. That's exactly where Leicester, and by the way, not just Leicester, but other teams should focus their attention on is getting through that young talent. We moved to St James's.
Let me just say on the Sammy Smodics 20-1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What odds do you think Leicester are to win the game?
I haven't looked. I'm going to say they are 18-1.
They are 12-1. That is an absolute disgrace of a price, considering Leicester haven't scored in about 8 games. That is an absolute disgrace of a price. They should be 33-1.
Well, maybe Sky Bet have been stung with the freeze so many times this season that they're not, but because of the freeze.
I normally risk a couple of quid on that sort of thing. At 12-1, I don't think it's worth risking it. If it was 20, 25s, 33s, I'd be heard your cat go there. Go no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend. I'm not risking it either.
She's in full agreement. She's having a meltdown. I don't know what's going on over there. We've moved to St James's Park for a much tighter clash, although probably the same outcome. Newcastle host Brentford. Can you see, obviously, Newcastle still bouncing off the back of the cup win? Obviously, loads of excitement coming into the kind of the area in terms of celebrations. Do you think that would be a distraction, or do you think Newcastle get straight back down to business because they've got the important stuff for trying to qualify for the Champions League?
Yeah, again, I'm trying to use heart and head here. I can see Brentford turning them over because it's generally what happens off the back of real positivity is that you sort of lay off it a bit. The only thing that sort of leans me the other way is when you look at the league positions and them qualifying for Champions League, it's crucially important for them, isn't it? So, I mean, I do think Newcastle win the game, but it would not surprise me at all for Brentford to turn them over.
Brentford are probably the worst opposition they could have had in terms of they're so organised. They're set pieces. If Newcastle aren't at it, Brentford will have to. I think Brentford done last season quite heavily. I seem to remember when Worcester scoring. I might be wrong. I feel like it was the same time when Forest did them as well. But I think absolutely. But if Newcastle play anywhere near like they did in that final, which does feel like a lifetime ago, by the way, doesn't it? It does feel like it was a very long time ago, that final. They'll be very, very comfortable at home against Brentford.
Well, they've also organised an open top bus parade, haven't they? And I don't think that's happened yet. So that's still going to be on in the memory and stuff. So, I mean, my head is telling me Newcastle will have too much at home and should win. But my heart just tells me that Brentford could the sort of team to go and nick it. But again, odds-wise, I think they're 2-3-1. Doesn't really entice me, that doesn't. Away from home at St James's, I'd want a bit of a bigger price to have a punt on that.
But that's testament to the job that Brentford do. It's not that, like I say, you've just said that you can see them winning, so therefore they're not going to be 6-1 because they're.
Yeah, I was just expecting more of a 4-1 sort of price, which would tempt me to have a little nibble.
The thing that Newcastle are going to have to manage is the emotion of the day, because obviously it's like you say, it's their first game back at home since the cup win. There'll be lots of people there that didn't get to experience the cup win. I'd imagine there'll be the famous black and white flags will be put on the seats to make it look like a real visual spectacle. And to be fair, I think Newcastle do that very well for the most part. So if Newcastle can manage the emotion, they'll be fine. But like you say, of all of the teams that they're playing, they probably wouldn't have wanted to play Brentford at home the first game back after the cup win, because that does feel like a tricky potential banana skin, as they say. One end of the country, right the way down to the other at St Mary's, Southampton host Crystal Palace. Again, very similar. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this one. Southampton down, Palace safe, but Palace look like they got more than enough to win this one comfortably. I can't see anything other than that for me, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was a 1-0 as well.
I have seen news that Mateta's fit as well. I think that gives them a huge boost because I think they do look a little bit light up front without him. But, I mean, Wharton's back fit and firing. So, to me, this is an absolute banker. So, I'm making Palace my banker of the week. I think 8-13 is a really good price for Palace away from home to beat Southampton. And like you said, it wouldn't surprise me if they do win 0. But 8-13 for me, I think that's the best bet on the coupon for the game week.
Don't disagree with you, mate. I think that's absolutely there or thereabouts. I think we can spend loads of our time talking about it, but it's not really much point. I think anything other than an away win would be a huge surprise, and one that I don't think will happen. And I think it'll be comfortable. And like you say, I think with Mateta wearing his special headgear to protect his ear, it wouldn't surprise me if he did something special as well on the day. The big game of that day, and most days, is at Anfield. Liverpool hosting Everton, 8 o'clock off live on Sky Sports. 3 or 4 weeks ago, 5 or 6 weeks ago, this would have been an absolute home banker. There'd be no discussion to have been had. But actually, with the changes in both teams, Everton with the uptick, Liverpool with the downtick. And again, I know that feels a bit harsh based on the league form, but we're talking about the cup form and everything else that goes on with it. This feels a lot closer than it's felt in a good while, doesn't it? This feels like the sort of game that I can see being a proper old school, Duncan Ferguson, kind of ding dong of a game that could really be entertaining without it being high scoring.
I think with the way the last game panned out as well, Liverpool will be trying to get a bit of revenge, won't they? I think it's interesting, obviously, because it's obviously local derby, but Liverpool seem to decline. I think Everton have just declined slightly as well, which is, they were never going to keep that level of form, or else they'd have been fourth. But Yeah, I think you'll just start to see both teams get ignited a little bit because of the fixture, and it wouldn't surprise me at home if Liverpool have too much. But I think for a long period of time, the game will be pretty even because Everton, under Moyes have been very, very good. I just think eventually the quality will show. The interesting part for me is going to be Mo Salah. He has nosedived form-wise off a cliff, hasn't he, recently? So it'd be interesting to see him and if he can pick up some form and get into the game early. If they keep him quiet, I can see it going quite a long period of time without a goal.
Yeah, I think it's again, I'm happy to go. Well, I won't go early, but I think, all I'll say is Everton have drawn their last 4. Liverpool have been struggling a little bit to kind of get over the line and absolutely batter teams that we used to think they would do. Quite often the team has scored first. If you go back to the Southampton game, obviously it feels like a billion years ago, that one, but nonetheless Southampton did get a goal in that game. So it wouldn't surprise me. Again, Everton will be thinking, again, of course, let's not forget that it will depend a little bit what happens on Tuesday as well. If Arsenal have lost, if Nottingham Forest have lost, the pressure is really off Liverpool in terms of it. Being honest with you, it's a free hit. If Everton, you won't like it, but it doesn't matter. Whereas, of course, if Arsenal and Nottingham Forest both won, then of course that might add a little bit more spice to it. And either way, we know that Everton are going to try and give Liverpool a bloody nose and try and stop them from winning the league, all that kind of stuff, because they claim to have stopped Liverpool from winning the league when they drew with them famously a few years ago. So I think it will be interesting. I do think it will be a bit more of an old-fashioned ding-dong rather than a beautiful football game. But actually, I'm here for that because actually I think we've got a little bit lost in stylistic football, and actually to have a bit of a raw, because I'm expecting the crowd to be loud, like you say, off the back of the last fixture. I'm expecting the Anfield crowd to be right up for it, really loud, and I think it could be a really, really good throwback to what football used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to see if Chiesa's fit, but what I'd like to see
Probably
is,
not.
yeah, well, I think he is, and when when he has played, he's shown some glimpses. He just hasn't had a lot of opportunity. But from what I've seen of Diaz recently and Jota, I think they've both been very, very poor.
Yeah.
Gakpo has been sidelined for a bizarre reason as well. He hasn't really had a lot of game time, but I'd like to see Chiesa given a go. So when he has played, with the exception of Plymouth, he has shown some sparks and liveliness. And there's rumours of Diaz wanting to leave. So especially if those games go for them, Arsenal drop points, Forest drop points. I'd like to see him given a go because they might have an answer within the squad already there.
Let's not forget how much everyone was banging on in something about what a great signing that was for 13 million quid. It's a no-brainer. Well, actually, at the moment, he hasn't repaid it, has he, at all? So, and I think he's a player that I've really respected and enjoyed watching over the years. So I think there's a lot more to come from him if they can get it right. And I'm really looking forward to the Merseyside derby, which leads us on to the London derby on Thursday. Chelsea at Stamford Bridge host Tottenham for their annual 3 points against Spurs at the Bridge. Can you make a case for Spurs doing what they don't normally do and getting 3 points at said Bridge?
I don't think Chelsea are very good at the minute, but I don't think Spurs are very good at the minute. So with Spurs, though, you just don't know what you're going to get at times. At times they can be mesmerising going forward, but then just be dog shit at the back. Like you just don't know what you're getting. So I can see Spurs. I think Chelsea are going to win. Home advantage. Palmer should be, have a bit of rest into him. I think he's fit for the game. Like, nice to see him get a bit of form back because he's been dreadful of late. I can see a home win. I can't really see Spurs causing them too much harm. But you just never know with Spurs. They just turn up on occasions, don't they, and blitz teams.
This is the perfect game for Chelsea. Get the crowd back on board. For some reason, I never got it. The kind of grief between Chelsea and Spurs. I've never got it. But this is perfect for them because it will get the fans up for it. They'll turn up on Thursday night, wanting blood, excuse the phrase. It will be a proper, London derby, and I can see Chelsea quite comfortably keeping Spurs at bay. I think Chelsea will have the tactical solution for what Spurs offer. Spurs will have one eye on the week after their game against Frankfurt, which is obviously massive for their season. Having said that, Spurs, if they lose to Chelsea, if they lose at the weekend, they've got Southampton, I believe. And then, of course, if they get knocked out of Europe, this could be a real problem for Postecoglou. So that might give him a bit of a kick up the backside. But for me, this is a home win and a comfortable home win, and probably heaping more pressure on Postecoglou and the aforementioned job that he's still in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be very difficult. But this is the sort of game you can turn it around, though. If he wins or they get a draw, it could restore a bit of the faith, couldn't it? But no, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to win the game, and it's going to heap more pressure on him, which at the minute, judging by his appearance on the touchline, it's definitely not what he needs. He needs that to be relieved. He looks like a man under pressure.
100% is. Talking of pressure, we've got some pressure on his predictions, Fran, because obviously we've been pretty good in the last couple of weeks, so we need to keep that run of form going. So we go all the way back to the Emirates on Tuesday night at 7:45. Arsenal host Fulham. You think the score will be?
1-1.
I've gone 2-1 Arsenal. We stay at 7:45 Tuesday. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus West Ham United. I wonder if that's the longest sort of fixture in the Premier League. Maybe we won't do that. The score will be
1-1.
That's exactly what I've gone for, young man. So we need to put that in a separate little folder. 8 o'clock live on TNT Sports. Nottingham Forest host Manchester United at the City Ground. The score will be
Forest 1, Man U 0.
I've gone 2-1 Forest. 2-1 Forest. We move to the Vitality, where Bournemouth host Ipswich at 7:45 on Wednesday. The score will be
2-1.
I've gone 3-2. Highest scoring game of the week for me. We move along the south coast to Brighton, where at the American Express Stadium, where Brighton host Aston Villa. You have gone for a
2-1 Brighton win.
As have I. We go right the way up north, depending on where you live, of course. From me, right up north to Manchester at the Etihad Stadium, 7:45. Manchester City against that youthful Leicester that we hope will be put out. The score will be?
I've gone conservative with this because whenever I predict 8-0, it's always I've gone 3-0.
So have I. Get in the basket. Cool. That's 3 that are identical, by the way, so far. Newcastle host Brentford at St James's Park. Also 7:45 kickoff on the Wednesday. The score will be
2-1 Newcastle.
I've gone 2-0. I feel like I was a bit ambitious at the time, but I've gone 2-0. It's on the paper, Fran. I've got to keep it. Can't change it. It is what it is. Southampton host Palace at St Mary's, 7:45 Wednesday. You've gone for a
0-2.
I have also gone for a 0-2, Fran. That's 4 identicals. I think that might be the end of our identicals, though. Liverpool at Anfield, 8 o'clock, under the lights, even with the clocks going forward this weekend. Don't forget, everybody, clocks go forward hour less in bed, but it will still be dark. Host Everton. The score will be
2-1 Liverpool.
I've gone 1-1. I had 2-1 written down first of all, by the way. I did have 2-1 written down, but I changed it to 1-1. I just thought that Everton will be really hungry for that draw, and a draw doesn't really hurt Liverpool too much. Final match of the game week on Thursday, the 3rd of April, 8 o'clock, Stamford Bridge. Chelsea hosts Spurs or Tottenham Hotspur. We can't call them anything else. The score will be
Chelsea 2, Spurs 1.
I've gone 2-0. 2-0 to Chelsea. So, we're not massively different on a lot of them, so this could be very interesting in terms of our predictions. Now, £5 challenge and banker of the week. So you've already told me your banker of the week is Crystal Palace. I'm going to go for a little bit risky, not really, Bournemouth. I lied, it's not risky at all in reality. So we've gone for maybe 2 cheeky little ones there, but nonetheless, I think if you add them 2 together, that will add up to not a bad little number. And for your £5 challenge, what have you done, young man?
So I have gone for... I've got 2, if that's all right, today.
Oh, yeah, make rules up as you go along. No worries.
So I've gone with my Bet365. I've just gone for 5-fold of Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Man City and Newcastle.
Yeah.
And that gives you £48.77. And then I've also gone for one on Sky, hoping for a freeze. And I've gone for Chelsea, Palace, Man City, Bournemouth. So very similar, but then chuck Fulham in there, hoping that they score first to freeze. And that's 13-2. And I think that's quite good value, Fulham, because they do score goals.
Okay. Mine's slightly, I've done the old, so I've actually got a 6-fold. Why not? 18-1. Arsenal to win, Nottingham Forest to win, Bournemouth to win, Manchester City, Crystal Palace and Chelsea all to win, 18-1, or just shy. Sorry, it's not at all. What am I talking about? It's 12-1. Bloody idiot.
12-1. That was good odds.
63.97 from a fiver. Cool. So, Frank, as always, really enjoyed that, buddy. Now, remind people where they can find us, where they can abuse us, or where they can speak to us sensibly, whichever they choose.
So, let's just go with a quick quiz question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So we're going back to Premier League Golden Boot winners because that caused a storm last time. Yeah. So the question is, can you name all of the clubs who the player has played for that have won the Golden Boot? So I'll tell you how many there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 teams where the player who has played for them have won the Golden Boot. So obviously, a lot of them have multiple winners, so you just need to name the club ones. But there's 12 teams, and that is the question.
There we go. There's one that I think I know that's a little bit left field, and I remember it because of the Golden Boot winners previously. It starts with a B up north. I feel I might be wrong, but that was a left field one that I wouldn't have got, but might be on there. Well,
so there should be 4 left field ones. So there's 4 clubs there that are not sort of traditional big clubs, and then the rest of them. I mean, mind you, there's five of them are sort of obscure answers. So I think if you get all of them without cheating, you've either got extremely good knowledge or you've picked a few lucky answers.
Or a combination of the two. Okay, so where can people answer?
GPT,
So where can people answer that? Where can they find us? Where can they speak to us?
So to listen to the episode, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. I will upload some mini clips and stuff to X, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. If you want to answer the questions on there, either reply to the tweet, the post, or the video, whatever it is. You can send us direct messages, those sorts of things. And if you want to come on the pod, we're looking for some guests. You're more than welcome. Make sure you've got some knowledge, though. Don't just jump on like we've had with some people.
I wonder who you're talking about. Okay, as always, Frank, my favourite out of it. Thank you very much. Look forward to speaking to you next week. Have a great one. Take care.